I came home to 2 cold bottles, a running dishwasher, and silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel natural. The kind that crawls over your skin, whispering that something is very, very wrong. I remember dropping my keys on the counter and calling out her name. Jess. Nothing. The TV was still on in the living room, tuned to one of those reality shows she liked to half-watch while scrolling Instagram. But the couch was empty. My daughter's blanket was crumpled on the floor. Her crib upstairs, empty, too. Panic didn't hit all at once. It seeped in, like a slow leak under the door. First, confusion. Maybe she went to the store. Maybe she took the baby for a walk. But then I saw the bottles. 2 of them, half drunk, sitting on the table where she'd been nursing only hours before. The dishwasher was running, mid-cycle, like someone had started it and then vanished. I called her again. Louder. My voice cracked. Jess, where are you? No answer. Her bottle was still warm. That's the part one keep coming back to. Not the note. Not the dishwasher still running. Not even the closet door left slightly ajar like she'd slipped 1 foot out of her life and decided not to come back. It was the bottle, sitting upright on the armrest of the couch. Half full. Formula still clinging to the glass in a slow, lazy spiral. Our daughter's little pink blanket crumpled beside it. Like Jessica had just stepped away for a second. Maybe to pee. Maybe to grab her phone. And then forgot to come back. But that was 3 months ago. And nobody forgets to come back for 3 months. I'm Michael, 31, systems analyst. I spend my days predicting failure, hunting for broken loops and forgotten logins. The kind of man who backs up his backup drive, who checks the oven twice, who never once forgot a birthday or an anniversary. I married Jessica because she was chaos wrapped in lipstick and lashes. A walking contradiction. The kind of woman who made strangers look twice in grocery stores, and who could fake sincerity so well even her tears looked photoshopped. Online, she was a star in the making. At home, she was just my wife. Sometimes sweet, sometimes cruel. Always unpredictable. We weren't perfect, but we had rituals. Thursday night pizza. Morning coffee with the baby in her bouncer between us. Long talks that started about nothing and ended somewhere real. Or so I thought. Our daughter, Aria, had just been born. 3 weeks old. Tiny. Helpless. A squirmy bundle of soft noises and barely there eyebrows. I loved her in a way I didn't know was possible. Like my entire nervous system had rewired itself around her cries. Like nothing else mattered. Then, one Thursday night, I came home to silence. No crying. No TV. No clink of wine glass on counter. Just the sound of the dishwasher whirring. And that bottle. I called out. Jess. Nothing. I checked the bedroom. The crib. The bathroom. My phone buzzed with a missed call from a number I didn't recognize. No voicemail. I found the note 2 hours later. Stuffed between the couch cushions. A torn piece of Aria's ultrasound photo with 5 words scrawled on the back in smudged eyeliner. Asterisk, I need time. Don't call. That was it. Not signed. No date. No explanation. I called the cops. Of course I did. She'd taken our infant daughter and vanished. I filed a missing persons report. Showed them the note. The detective assigned to the case was polite but tired looking. Said maybe she was overwhelmed. That postpartum does things to people. That sometimes women just need to breathe. I showed them the nursery. The unopened diapers. The empty baby swing. I begged them to treat it like a kidnapping. They told me to wait. So I waited. I stopped going to work. I stared at our door like she might reappear any second, laughing at the misunderstanding. I scoured her social media, checked her email, even drove by her mother's house twice. Nothing. Jessica had gone dark. Completely. Weeks passed. I stopped counting days and started counting sleepless nights. My mom flew in from Tucson to keep me from losing it. She made casseroles and tried not to cry when she folded Aria's onesies. Then, 2 months to the day after Jessica vanished, I got a letter from the county courthouse. Petition for full custody and child support. Jessica Lee was suing me for abandoning our daughter, for failing to provide support, for being, in her words, an unfit, emotionally unavailable, financially negligent absentee father. I read the first page 5 times before I realized I was holding it upside down. Absentee father? She vanished. She took our child, left a cryptic note, and disappeared. And now I was the deadbeat? My hands were shaking when I finished the paperwork. But my mind wasn't. Something had broken in me. Not the way you think. Not in the way Jessica hoped. I didn't fall apart. I got focused. Because what she didn't know was that I'd been watching. And not just watching. Recording. Next week was the hearing. I was supposed to show up, apologize, and beg the court not to take away whatever rights I had left. But I wasn't showing up empty-handed. No, Your Honor. I brought receipts. She walked into the courtroom like she was filming a TikTok haul video. Red bottoms. Designer tote. Giant sunglasses she didn't bother taking off until the bailiff told her twice. Hair blown out, makeup flawless. Like this was a fashion shoot, not a custody battle. I sat there in my wrinkled shirt and 2 hours of sleep, gripping a folder filled with evidence, watching the woman I used to call my wife pretend she was the victim. Jessica didn't even glance at me. Her lawyer, some overconfident prick in a tailored suit, stood and started spinning their web. Said I abandoned my family. That I refused to provide for my newborn daughter. That I emotionally manipulated Jessica until she had no choice but to leave. She was afraid for her mental health, he said dramatically, and for the well-being of the child. I almost laughed. Then Jessica stood. Her voice was soft, rehearsed, every sentence perfectly measured. I didn't want to do this, she told the judge. But he gave me no choice. Aria deserves a stable home. One where she isn't treated like an inconvenience. She wiped a fake tear. I knew it was fake because I'd seen the real ones. The ones that came during 3 a.m., feedings and diaper blowouts, and those long nights where the silence between us was louder than any scream. Jessica wanted full custody, retroactive child support, sole legal rights. She wanted to erase me like I was a bad review on her influencer page. The judge turned to me. Mr. Lee, do you have anything to say before I make my preliminary ruling? I stood slowly. My hands didn't shake. I do, Your Honor, I said, reaching into my bag. I pulled out a small, silver USB drive. I'd like to submit some footage. From our home security system. Timestamped. Unedited. Installed 3 months before my daughter was born. Jessica's eyes finally met mine. And for the first time in this entire circus, she looked scared. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I handed the judge the USB drive and sat back down. Jessica looked at it like it might explode. The courtroom was quiet except for the clerk clicking a few keys. Then, the monitor lit up. Grainy footage. Timestamped. Dated 3 weeks after Aria was born. Our front hallway. Jessica stepping inside with Aria in her arms. Setting down her keys. Calm. Not scared. No signs of distress. Just routine. Then, for minutes later, another figure entered. Brandon. Taller than I remembered. Still wearing that smug, effortless grin. He kissed her. Not a peck. Not some friendly cheek brush. It was long. Familiar. Someone behind me gasped. The next clip played. Them on the couch. Aria asleep upstairs. Jessica laughing. Drinking wine. Her phone in one hand, Brandon's thigh under the other. The footage went on. More days. Different angles. Her packing bags while Brandon held the baby. Her whispering, just wait till the check clears. One scene showed her pulling the note out of her makeup drawer, practicing how she wrote it, ripping up versions, smiling at the final draft. I didn't watch her. I watched the judge, stone-faced, then her lawyer, who looked like she just bit into a lemon rind. The footage ended. I cleared my throat. Your Honor, I work in digital systems. I backed this footage up 3 ways. Timestamped, watermarked, and independently verified by a third-party forensic tech. I also have logs from our cloud service proving it was never tampered with. The judge nodded slowly. Jessica finally spoke. That footage doesn't tell the whole story. I was scared. Brandon showed up. I didn't know what to do. Jessica, the judge cut in. We'll let your attorney handle that. Her mouth closed like a steel trap. I looked down at my hands. They weren't shaking. Not anymore. For the first time since she left, I felt steady. The first time I saw Brandon's face again, it wasn't on video. It was in the courtroom gallery. Leaning back with his arms crossed like this was some daytime talk show, and he was the main event. Smirking like he already knew how this ended. Jessica didn't flinch when he walked in. Didn't look surprised. She looked relieved, like she wasn't fighting this alone anymore. Her lawyer scrambled to adjust their strategy. Asked the judge for a short recess to review the new evidence. The judge allowed it. 15 minutes. I didn't move from my seat. I didn't need to. Because the real bomb wasn't the footage. It was the digital footprint Jessica forgot she left behind. While we were living our little suburban dream, she was backing up everything to the cloud. Photos, voice memos, Screenshots. Whole chunks of her life synced automatically to our shared account. She never revoked my access. The night before the hearing, I found them. Dozens of messages between her and Brandon. Plans. Updates. Fantasies of a new life together, funded by the guy she claimed had abandoned her. Jessica. He has no idea. He still thinks I'm depressed. I can drag this out for months. Brandon. Good. Keep him feeling guilty. He'll pay without a fight. Jessica. Once custody's set, we're golden. He'll be writing checks while we're living rent-free. I printed them all. During recess, I slid the folder across the table to her lawyer. She opened it. I watched the color drain from her face. When court resumed, Jessica tried to pivot. Said Brandon had pressured her. That she felt trapped. That she made a few bad choices during a mental health spiral. But it didn't land the way she hoped. Because Brandon sat there, relaxed, cocky, grinning through the entire thing. The judge finally turned to him. Mr. Collins, if you continue smirking in my courtroom, I'll hold you in contempt. Brandon shrugged. Just here to support my girl, Your Honor. The judge raised an eyebrow. Is that what we're calling co-conspiracy now? Jessica's eyes flicked to Brandon. He didn't meet them. He was done playing pretend. Because unlike her, he didn't care how this looked. He wasn't trying to win custody. He wasn't trying to salvage an image. He just wanted to watch the fire burn. The judge called for another recess. Due to the sensitive nature of this new evidence, the court will reconvene in 48 hours. Both parties are advised to consult legal counsel immediately. Jessica rushed out of the courtroom, but not before she turned and shot me a look. Not anger, not sorrow, pure, panic calculation. She finally understood. I wasn't the one being dragged. I was the one building the case. She told the court she wasn't working. Said she had no income, no savings, no support except for Brandon and a few sympathetic friends. What she didn't know was that I'd already traced her side hustle. Jessica had an alias, an OnlyFans account under the name Jessa Bloom. Not the most subtle branding, but fitting. Same birth date on her profile. Same tattoos. Same apartment background. Different hair color, new username, but the same smug confidence in every photo. She'd been promoting it quietly through DMs, using burner accounts. A secret life she thought was perfectly hidden. Except she wasn't careful. Digital fingerprints were everywhere. Photo metadata. IP addresses. Payments linked to our old joint bank account before she switched to crypto. Her public Venmo feed even had a few too obvious flower emoji payments from subscribers. I had spreadsheets, receipts, screenshots. She made over $9,400 in 4 months. And yet, she claimed she couldn't afford diapers. That Aria needed state aid. That she was practically homeless. The courtroom was silent when I handed over the financial records. Your Honor, I said, flipping to the transaction history. This is income she failed to report. Under oath. To the court. And to the Department of Family Services. Jessica's lawyer asked for a recess. The judge declined. We're proceeding, he said, tapping his gavel. Jessica stood, shaking now. I didn't think it counted as real work, she mumbled. The judge arched an eyebrow. You offered adult content for money. That's income. And you omitted it while asking for support. Her voice broke. I was just trying to stay afloat. Brandon said it wouldn't matter if I didn't declare it. I could have laughed. Instead, I looked at the judge. She had choices. She chose to hide the money. And when that wasn't enough, she tried to take mine. He nodded. Effective immediately, he said. Ms. Lee's assets are to be frozen pending investigation of financial misconduct. A forensic audit will follow. Jessica turned to her lawyer, stunned. The woman just shook her head and whispered, He's not playing checkers, Jess. He's playing chess. Maybe if he'd been more of a man, I wouldn't have had to leave, she said. Flipping her hair like this was still high school. It was supposed to land like a dagger. Instead, the courtroom laughed. Not loudly. Not cruelly. Just awkward chuckles. The kind of noise people make when they're embarrassed for someone else. Jessica blinked, confused that her dramatic line didn't hit. I didn't move. Didn't flinch. Because that line? That was her last card. The one she'd been saving. The one she thought would turn the judge, humiliate me, remind everyone I was the boring tech guy she outgrew. But that card was bent, wrinkled, and completely see-through. The judge tapped his pen. Ms. Lee, if we're done with character assassination, perhaps we can return to the matter at hand. Her lawyer didn't even try to object. I stayed silent. Because I didn't need to defend myself. The evidence had already done that for me. But in my head, I remembered every time she said it. You're too soft. You're not assertive enough. Brandon takes charge. You just analyze everything. She said those things during our last months together. When Arya was colicky and the walls were closing in. When I suggested therapy. When I begged her to sleep more, eat more, talk more. She wanted fire. But I was trying to build a home. Now, here she was, dragging that same accusation into court like it meant something. As if being kind made me weak. As if being measured meant I didn't love my daughter fiercely. The irony? While she was live streaming her tantrums and monetizing her trauma, I was quietly laying the groundwork to protect Arya. I wasn't a man in the way Brandon was. Thank God. The judge looked over his glasses. Let's talk about the online content, shall we? Jessica stiffened. Because what she didn't know was that her fanbase, her loyal digital army, had turned on her. They'd seen the footage. They'd found the court transcripts. They'd compared her influencer version of events to the reality I'd documented. And it didn't add up. Comments had started popping up on her videos. Didn't she abandon her kid? Pretty sure the court froze her accounts. Girl, this ain't it. I pulled out my phone and passed it to my lawyer. Screenshots. Thousands of them. Public comments. Reddit threads. Ex-subscribers spilling receipts. Her own narrative collapsing under the weight of digital truth. The judge skimmed the evidence, then looked up. This case just became criminal. Sometimes, revenge is just holding the mirror. I didn't need to scream, or threaten, or post some dramatic expose online. I just let her keep talking. The week leading up to the hearing, I said nothing. Not to Jessica, not to Brandon, not even to the court, except through my lawyer. I watched, collected, labeled files like I was cataloging a virus. Jessica didn't stop digging. She submitted job applications, claimed she was actively looking for work, said she had offers, said she was trying to rebuild her life. What she didn't realize was that every one of those applications was created in a single afternoon, on the same laptop, using the same template, same typos, same metadata. I pulled the PDFs, stripped the layers, checked timestamps. They were fake. All of them. She forged 10 different resumes and cover letters, faked emails from fake companies, submitted them to the court as proof of effort. I smiled the whole time, because I knew the next hearing wasn't just going to be about custody anymore. It was about perjury. My lawyer handed the judge the report, a forensic breakdown, timestamped logs, screenshots of Jessica editing all the files in a single folder called Court Docs. She didn't even bother to rename it. The judge read in silence for a full 5 minutes. Jessica shifted in her seat, bit her lip, glanced back at Brandon, who had suddenly taken great interest in the ceiling. You realize this constitutes deliberate deception under oath, the judge said. Jessica opened her mouth, closed it. My lawyer stood. We request a formal investigation, including digital forensics and a subpoena of her devices. The judge nodded. I'll authorize that. Then he looked at me. Mr. Lee, are you a certified digital analyst? Yes, Your Honor. Would you be willing to testify as an expert witness in this matter? I would. Jessica made a sound. A sharp inhale, half whimper, half growl. Because this wasn't just a custody hearing anymore. This was the unraveling. He cornered me in the courthouse parking lot. Same smirk. Same lazy posture like the world owed him something. Like none of this was real. Drop it, he said. Or else. I looked at him. Really looked. Same hoodie from the courtroom. Same scuffed shoes. Same cheap aftershave I remembered from when he used to crash on our couch while looking for a job. But this time, I didn't flinch. Because I knew something he didn't. I tapped the pen in my shirt pocket twice. It was recording. Audio. Crisp. Legal. Admissible. He stepped closer. You think this ends well for you? You think the court's gonna give a tech nerd a kid over her own mother? I smiled. Actually, I do. Brandon didn't like that. His jaw twitched. Hands curled into fists. I could tell he wanted to say more, maybe swing, maybe act like the big man he saw in his head. But he didn't. Because just then, a courthouse security guard stepped out for a smoke break. Brandon backed off. Last warning, he muttered. You keep pushing, you'll regret it. I kept walking. Didn't even look back. 2 hours later, I handed the recording to my lawyer. He raised an eyebrow. Probation violation? Yep. Turns out Brandon had a little history. Assault. Trespassing. One ongoing case for threats against an ex. That little parking lot chat? It counted. Security footage showed him following me. My pen picked up his exact words. And the judge? He didn't need convincing. Brandon was escorted out of court in cuffs. Jessica screamed. But this time, no one tried to comfort her. The lie came casually. And anyway, Jessica said, brushing hair from her face, we don't even know if he's the father. Like it was nothing. Like it wasn't nuclear. The room went silent. Even her lawyer blinked twice, caught completely off guard. She tried to keep her voice steady. It's not like we did a test. And there were overlaps. It's possible. She didn't look at me when she said it. I stared at her. Not in shock. Not anymore. I'd prepared for this. Weeks ago, in the middle of my worst insomnia, I sent in for a paternity test. Quietly. Arya had a pediatric appointment, and I offered to take her solo. Swabbed her cheek in the car. Overnighted the test. Not because I doubted, but because I knew Jessica would eventually try this. She had no more plays. No more distractions. So now she was reaching for the nuclear button. My lawyer stood. We'd like to submit Exhibit F, he said calmly. The judge nodded. Paternity test. Conducted 3 weeks ago. Legal chain of custody observed. He handed over the envelope. I knew what it said, but I still watched the judge open it. Still felt the blood rush to my ears as his eyes scanned the results. He cleared his throat. Mr. Lee is confirmed to be the biological father. 99.9% probability. Jessica froze. A crack ran through her carefully constructed mask. Just for a second. But I saw it. She hadn't expected me to be ready. To be that ready. But I was. Because I'm not Brandon. I don't bluff. I build. And the foundation she thought was soft? It was steel. The judge leaned back. Ms. Lee, I strongly advise you stop speaking unless prompted. This courtroom is not your stage. Her face turned red. My lawyer whispered, she's finished. And for the first time since the hearing began, I believed him. I didn't even know she had a TikTok until someone from work sent me the clip. Jessica, crying into the camera, the soft lighting, the fake sniffles, the dramatic piano track in the background. Sometimes, she whispered, you do everything right and still lose your baby. She painted herself as the tragic heroine. Said the court system favored abusers. Said her ex had turned people against her with lies and deep fakes. She never used my name. But she didn't have to. She knew exactly what she was doing. Within hours, the video had racked up 100,000 views. Comments poured in. Sympathy. Outrage. DMs from strangers offering donations. Then came the internet detectives. TikTok's favorite breed of vigilantes. They dug into court filings. They found the footage. The financial records. The paternity test. They linked her OnlyFans. Found her alt accounts. Matched tattoos and timestamps. It unraveled fast. The comments turned. Wait, she said the baby was kidnapped, but there's footage of her leaving? Isn't this the chick who forged job applications? Y'all better check those court receipts. Sponsors dropped her. Followers plummeted. And I watched it all quietly, from my desk. Didn't say a word. Didn't post a rebuttal. Didn't even like a comment. Because this was never about going viral. This was about my daughter. Then, late one night, she went live again. This time, mascara smudged. Voice cracking. I just want to move forward. I've made mistakes. I know that. But I'm still her mother. I was about to turn it off, until I heard it. A voice off camera. Deep. Slurred. Jess, where's the F*** **ing remote? Brandon. Clear as day. She froze. Eyes widened. Mute button fumbled. But it was too late. The chat exploded. Screenshots flew. Her story, her whole narrative, collapsed in real time. Her voice cracked. But she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to the camera. Another apology video, round 3. This time with no music. No filters. No makeup. I know I've made mistakes, she said, eyes wet. I know I hurt people. I want to start fresh. I'm sorry. Pause. I'm sorry, Mom. I know you said Brandon was no good. I should have listened. I hit pause. Not out of anger. Just exhaustion. She had said sorry to her followers. To her mom. To the brands who dropped her. Even to the judge, kind of. But never to me. Never to Arya. And maybe that's what hurt most. Not the betrayal. Not the lies. But the fact that in her mind, she still saw herself as the victim of some cosmic unfairness. She'd turned everything into content. Our marriage. Our baby. Her downfall. She never said, I'm sorry I tried to erase you. Or, "I'm sorry I made our daughter collateral." Instead, she posted another video. And I watched it, even though I hated that I still did. Later that week, we met with the court-appointed evaluator, Aria's guardian ad litem. They'd watched everything too. But unlike me, they had to stay neutral. They sat with Aria, played blocks, asked questions. Then they asked her where she wanted to be. And Aria, my quiet, observant little girl, just pointed to me and said, "Daddy's house." I didn't cry until we got back to the car. That night, I found a letter folded into Aria's overnight bag. Not to me, to Jessica's mom. A rambling, desperate thing. She blamed everyone. Me, Brandon, the court, the internet, her unfair upbringing. But tucked at the bottom, scrawled like an afterthought, "I just wanted someone to fight for me." I closed the letter. She didn't need a savior. She needed consequences. And the court was almost done delivering them. They asked where she wanted to live. She didn't hesitate. Aria pointed to me and said, "Daddy's house." Jessica flinched like the words slapped her. I didn't gloat, didn't smile. I just reached for Aria's hand and gave it a soft squeeze. Because this wasn't a win. This was repair. Recovery. The custody hearing felt less like a trial and more like a final reckoning. Therapists testified. One said Aria showed signs of confusion and anxiety when returning from her visits with Jessica. Another said Jessica had failed to attend half her court-mandated parenting courses. Jessica objected. Loudly. Said the therapists were biased. Said the system was rigged. Said I'd manipulated everyone. The judge reminded her of her outbursts, her absences, her social media posts. Then came the photos. Brandon holding Aria in a smoky apartment. Jessica live-streaming with Aria in the background, crying. Aria left in front of a tablet, unsupervised, while Jessica did haul videos in the next room. I didn't need to say a word. The judge saw it. He turned the folder back toward his clerk, folded his hands, and looked at Jessica. "You've repeatedly used this child as a prop, as a shield, as a weapon, and that ends now." Jessica whispered something. Her lawyer placed a hand on her arm. The courtroom went still. The judge cleared his throat. "In the best interest of the child, full legal and physical custody is granted to Mr. Lee." My lungs finally filled. I felt like I hadn't really breathed since the day they disappeared. He kept going. "MS. Lee's visitation is suspended pending psychiatric evaluation and completion of parenting requirements. Any future contact will be supervised at the court's discretion." Jessica burst into tears. Not the performative kind. Real ones. But it was too late. This wasn't a stage. This was judgment. They knocked on her door the same day she posted about haters trying to cancel her. 2 agents. Business cards. Calm voices. Jessica was mid-livestream when it happened. Ring light still glowing. Mic still hot. She turned the phone just enough to catch their badges. And that was it. The internet didn't miss a beat. Clips flew. Screenshots. Reactions. FBI pulls up on Jessica Lee mid-cry. It went viral. Turns out, when you falsify income to avoid taxes, forge documents in court, and collect online donations under false pretenses, someone's going to notice. Especially when your ex is a digital analyst and has receipts dating back to her first OnlyFans cash out. The fraud investigation hit the news 2 days later. Not front page, but a small segment on a local Denver station. Social media influencer under criminal investigation for tax evasion and court fraud. Her mugshot was hollow, like the mask had finally been peeled off, and she didn't recognize the person underneath. They mentioned the custody case, the falsified documents, the forensic testimony. I didn't comment, didn't repost, didn't even watch the whole clip. Because justice didn't need my applause. It was already working. And Aria? She was asleep upstairs, clutching the same stuffed giraffe Jessica once tried to sell on Poshmark. He messaged me on a burner account. No greeting. No pretense. Just, "Yo, we could both get a check from this, bro." I stared at the screen, disgust rising. He attached a screenshot. TMZ. They'd reached out to him. Wanted his side. Said there was interest in turning the whole ordeal into a segment. Or maybe more. He pitched it as a joint thing. Like a redemption arc, exes working it out for the kid. They'll pay. I didn't respond. But I didn't delete the message either. I sent it to my lawyer. 2 days later, a cease and desist landed on Brandon's lap. But that didn't stop him. He posted on a throwaway Twitter account. Claimed he had exclusive footage. hinted at wild lies about Jessica and I both being complicit in some scheme. It picked up steam for about 36 hours. Then I dropped the court documents. Full PDFs, unredacted, verified, timeline, testimony, footage, screenshots, audio files. It was like setting a match to gasoline. Even the gossip sites backed off. TMZ dropped their interest. Then someone else did a little digging. Turns out Brandon had 3 prior arrests. 2 for harassment, 1 for assault. And just like that, he went from internet curiosity to public joke. His burner accounts went quiet. I got one more message. You think you won. You didn't. You are just lucky. I didn't reply, because I wasn't lucky. I was patient, and I never needed the world to know the truth. Just the court. And my daughter. Then, out of nowhere, came a DM from a producer. Streaming docuseries. Real stories. High drama. They wanted me to consider telling my side. Said there was interest. Big names. I didn't delete it. But I didn't answer either. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just free. 1 year later, the noise had faded. Jessica pled to lesser charges. Probation, a fine, community service. Her online presence evaporated. Brandon disappeared back into whatever dark corner he crawled from. And me? I started over. I moved out of that old house. Aria and I found a little 2-bedroom near the foothills. Quiet, warm, close to her preschool. The kind with a creaky front porch and a yard just big enough for a swing. I took a leave from work and went to therapy. Not just for me, so I'd never confuse silence for peace again. Every morning, I packed Aria's lunch. Every night, I read her the same storybook she loved when she was barely a month old. I stopped looking at old photos. Stopped replaying the court footage. Stopped checking Jessica's deleted accounts. I didn't need closure. I had custody. I had quiet. I had my daughter falling asleep with her head on my chest, trusting me to keep the world from crashing down again. That was the win. Not revenge. Not public humiliation. Just rebuilding. So when the producer followed up about the documentary deal, I said no. I thanked them. Told them I wasn't interested in reliving it. I didn't need to be a character in someone else's plot twist. This was my ending. Peaceful. Honest. Mine. Then, last week, I got a letter. Unmarked envelope. Familiar handwriting. Jessica. I sat at the kitchen table, Aria napping in the next room. I stared at it for 10 minutes. Then I opened it. And what I read made my hands go cold.